Good Saturday morning. We're here at the homestead. It's hot, but it's overcast, so thank you, Lord. And got a little sprinkles even, so not bad for August. I had this extra IBC tote, so I thought I'd do a video on how I make my raised beds, the ones I have here in the high tunnel. If you watched my garden tour video a few weeks ago, we talked about the beds that we do here. All the ones so far in the tunnel here are these IBC totes, and they're cut in half, and that gives you 2 beds per tote. So not bad. I prefer this because you're only amending the soil in that little area instead of just a whole big open ground. Plus you don't have to bend over, and that's pretty cool too. Or you don't have to bend over as far. So IBC tote stands for intermediate bulk container, and this one's laying on its side, but it's just a big tote with an aluminum cage around it, and that, you know, holds when this is full of liquid, it holds, you know, the tote from breaking, the plastic container. They ship detergents, some food products, anything liquid pretty much in these containers. Some of them have toxic stuff in them, some of them don't. This had a detergent in it. I washed it out real well. I'm not terribly concerned about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this thing in half and show you how I fill these things up. So you can either use a Sawzall, which is what I'm going to use because people are more likely to have that over maybe some other tools. I mean, you could use a hacksaw, a hand hacksaw if you really had to, or a grinder. I'm sure there's 100 other things you could use too, but that's probably the most common. So let's get started. So this is a 330 gallon, so it's a little taller than the other one. The other IBC tote size is a 275 gallon. So this one's a little taller, and I prefer these over the shorter ones. So I just count up the pipes here. So 1, 2, 3. Here's my middle, and this is gonna be really loud. So I'm sure Chief here, video lady, will mute the loud sound and spare you that. I'll put my headphones in, and so I just leave the plastic in there, and I cut down, and I just use this center bar here as kind of a straight edge. I'm sure some people take the tote out and measure it all out and blah blah blah. To me, it's a waste of time. So here's how I do it. So we got them in half. One issue, not really an issue, but one thing to think about is this bottom one has a base on it. So it's the kind of palletized portion. So it'll sit about 4 inches or so taller than the other one. So when I'm doing several of these, I'll cut them all in half, and I'll put all the taller one, you know, the palletized ones in one area, and then kind of match them up that way so they all look a little bit more uniform. I'm not going to worry about that right now with this one. It doesn't change anything. It's just a matter of how pretty, I guess, you want it to look, or how uniform you want it to look. So I've got this ground right here is actually, it's a little bit lower on that side. So I'll put the palletized, the one with the pallet bottom, I'll put that over there, and then I'll put this one on the little bit higher ground. It'll just make it look a little bit more even. You can't get out there, baby. You can't get out there, huh? Yeah. Come on, Max. You can't get out there. I would suggest to level it both ways, because the water will not just set to one side or the other, or one corner or whatever. We will put drainage holes in it at the end, but I'm going to level this up real quick. So instead of digging that all out, I've got some 1x4s. I'm just going to stick these in on this side, and that'll bring it up level, hopefully. Okay, so, are you helping? Big helper. This is Molly. She's a big helper. So, this one will set. You can either put it right next to it. I find it a little bit better to give them some space, 3 or 4 feet, 2 feet, whatever you want, in between these containers, because as you can see, sometimes the plant grows out over the sides, right? So if you give some room in between the containers, it just gives plants room to spread out and stuff. Next step is to save some money. I take junky old wood. This stuff is old. I mean, it's just old logs that you could use it for firewood, outdoor fire pit, whatever. I get a lot of wood chips delivered from a tree trimming company, and in the wood chips there's always these kind of semi bucked up 2 foot or so, 1 foot, 2 foot logs. It's perfect for lining the bottom half or so of these totes. It saves a lot of money on soil. It also holds the moisture in, and there's probably a lot of beneficial fungi and all kinds of stuff in this old soggy wood. I would say this style of doing this is similar to the hugelkultur gardening style. which is a German style, old school German style, where they take old wood and logs, they pile it up into windrows, and then they put dirt, wood chips, whatever on top of that. So again, it helps hold moisture, and eventually this will all break down and it'll turn into soil. I mean, in 5 years, maybe less, that'll all be like a spongy soil at the bottom. It'll be wonderful. So I've got one wheelbarrow here. I've got piles of this stuff out there, so we've got plenty. Watch out. And I line it up in there almost like a puzzle. I stack it in there as close as I can, just to get as much in there as I can. Which saves more money in soil. So, as you saw, I just added wood chips in now, and I like to try to work them down into the cracks of all the logs. It just fills all the voids. I mean, eventually the dirt is going to go in there and fill all the cracks, right? So for the next year or two, as I'm using this bed, you know, once a year, I may have to maybe add a few cubic feet of soil, maybe like a 3 cubic feet bag or something like that. It won't be a lot, but you know, as you water, as the plants grow, that soil, it's going to break down to smaller pieces, but it's also going to fill all the cracks. So this wood chip layer in here, I'll kind of work it in with my hand to try to get it down into all the cracks. The next thing I add, if I have it, are leaves. This is from a buddy. He lives in the city, you know, rakes his leaves every year and all that. These have been sitting out. As you can see, the bags are all torn open. They've been sitting over there for, I don't know, since last fall, I guess. But I'll add these since I have them. If I didn't have them, no big deal. You could also use grass clippings, pretty much anything like that. If you had garden plants that were pretty much anything you could compost, you could put in here. So let's add these leaves. Those bags didn't hold up very well. This will all smush down, but got a nice layer on there right now. This is out of the chicken coop. It's actually been out of the coop in a pile for, I don't know, a couple of years probably. So it's really finely decomposed chicken manure and probably remnants of feed, the food that I feed them. Feathers, turkey feather, that's all great fertilizer. It all breaks down. This is great stuff here. So This will help break down the leaves, the wood, everything in there. So we'll just put a layer of this in there. The next thing, add your dirt. This is just soil I had left over from the project. It doesn't really matter. This says tree and shrub garden soil. I don't know what the difference is between that and just regular garden soil, so it's dirt. I'm not going to use this bed until spring anyway, either one of these beds, so I'm not worried about it. You could just go out and dig dirt on your property or buy dirt or whatever, by the truckload or whatever you want to do. This is just what I had, so I'm going to use this. So we'll add it on top of the chicken manure. These IBC totes you can find on Craigslist or Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace. I would bet they're pretty well anywhere in the country you can find these. I met a lady on Facebook Marketplace several years ago who, I think this is what her son and her do full time, is they buy these from or maybe just get them free to haul them off from some company, and then they sell these. I think I paid $35 a piece for these. That's probably been 2 years ago, so I don't know what they're at right now. You can buy brand new ones at farm supply stores for way more than that, but if you're concerned about what was in them previously, you know, it might be the way to go for you, but they're probably going to be 6, 7, 8 times the cost, so it's kind of up to you. I'm just packing it in. That'll be that much less you'll have to add next year or in the spring or whatever. You could also, in between each step, run a water hose over all this. It would probably help wash a lot of it down into the cracks. Maybe we'll do that last. All right, so that is that. This is probably a little bit high. Like I said, by spring, I'll probably need one more bag on top, and then that'll still leave me a little bit of space after I plant to add some wood chips to keep the weeds down. So real quick before I start this second tote, or the bottom half of, it's actually the top half of the tote, it's got these bars that go across, which is the top. There's usually a cap here, and that's how they fill these totes. So these bars, you can take them off. They're easy to take off. What I do is, if I just lay this down like this, you kind of got these sharp edges sticking up, and I don't really like that. So what I'll do is I'll pull this plastic container out, and I'll flip this around, flip the cage around, so that these pointy ends are sticking in the dirt, and then that'll leave you with a nice clean top. That way you're not rubbing your leg on it or your arm or whatever as you're gardening. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. I'm gonna take these bars off, take the plastic out, flip the cage over, and we'll be set.
Well, it's lunchtime.
So, Chief fried me some bacon from our pigs. Can't beat that, right? And while she had that going, the grease, don't want to waste that. So fried me some potatoes that I dug up a few weeks ago from the garden. Can't beat it. All right, so I've got the other half here filled in. It's a lot faster and fast forward, isn't it? So again, I used one 330-gallon IBC tote, cut in half. I bought that on Marketplace, I think for like $35. The firewood at the bottom was free. The wood chips were free. The leaves were free. The chicken manure was free. And I bought the dirt. I think these were 2 cubic foot bags, and I bought 15 of them, and it was just perfect. So I'm gonna have 2 new beds for either fall gardening or for be ready for the spring. Now, you don't have to do any of the layers if you don't want to. If you don't have the firewood, if you don't have the chicken, you don't have to do all these different layers if you don't want to. The reason why I do it is I have all this stuff and it's free. I get wood chips dumped on a regular basis, and inside those piles of wood chips there's going to be a bunch of logs, and so I get all that free. And we obviously have a bunch of chickens, which means a bunch of chicken manure, and so I have all that. If you don't have all that and you can't get it, you could just do dirt. It's just going to be more expensive that way. So all the little extra stuff at the bottom, it is going to add soil fertility in the future. It's going to hold moisture and all that great stuff, but if you don't have it, you don't have to do it. So anyways, this is how I've done all these beds in here, and my plan is to continue all these rows all the way down to the end, and the whole high tunnel will be these beds. So appreciate you being here, and get your beds made, get ready to grow some food.